Hi everyone, in this video we're covering the essentials of OnCourse Classroom. The goal today is to provide you with the foundational skills you need to get up and running quickly. This is just the beginning of what the platform can do, so once you've mastered these basics, feel free to reach out to us to explore its more advanced features. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to navigate to OnCourse Classroom. It's this yellow CL icon. If you should have this icon and you don't, please reach out to one of us and we will get that for you. When you go onto OnCourse Classroom, the first tab you're going to see is your Classes and Groups tab. This tab should have all of your rostered classes right here in this panel. Again, if you see or don't see a class that you should or should not, please let us know and we'll fix that for you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to post a resource to our classes. So you've got your classes here. I'm going to add a resource. You can add a couple of different resources here. You can add to one class or you can add to all of your classes. I'm going to add a link to a folder. And I'm going to call this Learning OnCourse Classroom. So now you can see that I have one shared resource. If I toggle onto here, I can see that this resource is listed here. It's actually under all of my classes. In a second, I'll show you what this looks like from a student's end, and you'll see why I actually included a link and not just one particular resource. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the next session, the next part of this training, the message board. So again, you've got your classes here. You select new message. You can type post to all of your classes if you would like. I'm just going to send a simple message. Welcome to my OnCourse Classroom. You could schedule it if you wanted to, or you could add a link. You could add links up here, whatever you wanted. Post message. Okay, so that was posting a message, super simple. We're going to see what those things look like as a student. I'm going to toggle back to the classes and groups, and I'm going to toggle back to view students. And anytime you see this little cloud, that means that the student, that's where you can log in as the student. So I'm going to log in. And you can see that I am logged in as the student. You can also see that I've got these little dots right here. That means a message is available for the student to look at here. So again, there are no assignments on this tab yet, but if I go to this tab, I see the resource. And if I click here, it opens up. And now the student has access to whatever is in this folder. You do not have to share a folder. You could share specific resources, just the resource that you wanted them to see at the same time. However, we know that a lot of you guys have been using Google resources and things that are in your Google Drive already. And if they're already in one singular folder that you want to share with teachers, with parents and students, then this is a really efficient way to do that. Next, we can go to the messages. And you can see here that this student can respond to this message. And it goes back to this teacher. Oh, here we go. So we can see that she responded. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a multiple choice question. For the next couple of tasks, I'm going to create everything on one assignment. Again, you would not have to do that, but just for the sake of this training, I'm going to make a new assignment, and I'm going to call it Learning OnCourse Classroom. You could add instructions here. And this is also where you would edit the scoring and the return settings. So if you want students to see the returned assessment with all question and answer key, you would toggle those settings. I don't want them to see an answer key. And we're just going to change this to 50. The first item that I want to create is a multiple choice question. So I pressed add item, and now I'm pressing add new. and multiple choice. So this is your item builder. I'm going to put in my question here. And then I'm going to put my answers. Okay. So now you're going to select your correct answer. So our correct answer is 33. And there are a couple of other things you could do here. You could do shuffle options. This is one way to do multiple responses. I'm going to show you another way in just a second. You could add an alternative answer if you wanted to. We're not going to do that for this. But again, there's a lot of different settings on here. I encourage you to play around and check those out. So simple, that is saved. I'm going to create another question. And I want this to be a multiple select. So I'm going to go to multiple choice. And I'm going to click multiple response. And I'm going to put my question in here. And my answers. Okay, so I've got my question, I've got my answers, and now I have to set my correct answers. So in this case, the correct answers are A, C, and D. And again, you could shuffle the options if you wanted to. Since this is a multiple select, we want to make sure we set our minimum and maximum numbers, answer choices allowed. So we want a minimum of 3, and we also want a maximum of 3. We don't want them to select all of them and get the points correct. And you could also change the scoring type. Exact match means the entire question is worth 1 point, and they have to have all 3 of these to get 1 point. You could also change this to partial match per response, which would mean that they get partial match. Each one of them is 3, each one of them is 1 point for a total of 3 points. So again, check out those Learnosity guides to look at the different types of scoring. And we'll link those to our guides as well. I'm going to save that. Okay, so now we're going to add an extended response. I'm going to add another item because for many extended responses, a lot of teachers have some sort of reading component to that. So they read a passage or they look at a graph or they examine some sort of source. And we want our students to be able to have a fully LEAP-like experience. So I want to have something on this side and then a question on this side. So I'm going to go to settings and I'm going to change this to 50/50. And I want to show a vertical divider and enable scrolling for long content. I always tell teachers just to go ahead and get in the habit. If you're ever changing the layout of the test, go ahead and click show vertical divider and enable scrolling for long content. If you don't have long content, nothing will be affected. But if you do, it will allow students to scroll like your passage while not scrolling their answers and their questions. So that way they don't have to keep scrolling up and down for each to answer something. Click apply. Now I've got 2 different panels. I'm going to put a passage here. Passages are found in the features. We're going to call this source 1. Enter in your passage contents. You could also add an image here too by clicking here and adding an image that you have uploaded. There's your source, and then we're going to do an extended response, so an essay question. Our question is going to be, what is your favorite part of being an educator? And we're going to say it's worth 4 points. And we will be adding a rubric to this in just a second. So I'm going to save this. Next, we're going to create a matching item. Just a match. The term would be correct definition. So on one side, you just put the terms, and on the other side, put the definitions, and then you match them. Right, so A. Okay, so again, you can shuffle those options, you can duplicate those responses again, all those same things. You can change partial match per response or partial match, save. So there's another example of a tech enhanced item. So again, for the Reveal the Mystery of OnCourse Classroom, if you're playing that game with us, then we want you to create another one on your own. Next thing that we need to do for our challenge is tag standards to this. So I'm going to just pick some random standards, but use this bar up here, and you can actually search. So if you're a kindergarten teacher and you're using the math standards and the questions about counting, you can actually search those. So great feature. And I'm just linking random standards. The purpose of linking standards is to run standards analysis reports. We aren't going to do that in this challenge, but once you get the basics of OnCourse Classroom down, the standards analysis is a very powerful tool to see what standards your students are actually mastering that goes further than just the letter grade of the test or the assessment that you've given them. All right, so we've added our standards. We are saving. There are a couple of different ways to preview the test, which is your next task. So this preview right here is great for checking the scoring options that you've selected. So if I click here and I click these three, well, I only got 1 point. Okay, so it allows you to play around with the total scoring that you've created based on your settings. So if I change, this is the correct answer, correct answer. And then if I was like, wait, I don't know if I picked exact match or not, I don't want my kids to have to do an exact match, this would key you in on, oh, well, it didn't give them the point. So that would tell you like, okay, I need to go and change the way that I set up my settings, the partial match per response or the partial match. So that's a great tool to check your scoring settings. This preview allows you to take it as a student. So it tells you exactly what the students would see. And it lets you check all of those little settings, like the duplicate, the shuffle, all of those things. So you always want to preview your assessments before you push them out to students. The next thing that is on your task sheet is lockdown browser. If you want to add a lockdown browser, you just go to details and you turn on Yes, and we will link instructions on how students access that lockdown browser. But if you've given any district assessments, then you kind of already know how that process works. Students can access the test with a testing ticket or the access code, or they can click on it through their Connect portal, and it allows them to only access their tests. So again, I definitely recommend any assessment that you're giving, turning on that lockdown browser. To assign our assignment that has it's got our rubric, it's got our constructed response, it's got our little questions on it. If you're doing one big assignment, you can assign it to your kids, or if you're kind of doing this in your classroom authentically, you don't have to assign the practice test, but we'd like for you to assign something with a rubric so you can practice using that rubric with your students. So I'm going to copy this to my classes. I clicked copy assignment to classes. You can create a due date. You can schedule it. So if I wanted to schedule something for tomorrow or for Tuesday, then I could do that. I could schedule it and copy to classes, or I could just go ahead and just publish it today. And that's what I'm going to do. Now you can add it to your gradebook right now. That's totally fine. Our recommendation is to wait until they are graded, but some teachers do like to go ahead and add it to their gradebook. So that's how you would do that here if you want to, but I'm going to show you how to do it after you've graded stuff. So copy to classes and publish. And it might take a second to push out to all of your kids. Okay, so now we've got our assignments here. So it's a red bar. That means no student has turned it in yet. You need to turn on accessibility options for a student. You just checkbox, click actions, and then you can turn on whatever they need. And a little man will show up right here. So now we're going to take this as a student so that way you can see what it would look like, and I'll show you how you would grade that. So we're going to take this as this student. So you see my instructions here, you see my instructions here, you see the accessibility options here, click start. My window does look a little bit wonky because I have multiple windows open on my desktop right now, but your students would see it pretty full screen. So 33. And just a fun fact, all students, whether or not they have accessibility options, can highlight. So if you wanted them to highlight evidence and stuff like that, you wouldn't see it whenever you graded it. But if, like, for example, this student needed to exit out of this test and come back to it later, her highlights would still be there. So I'm going to put in my answer. And then I'm going to just put some random questions, put some random answers, review, finish. Okay, so if I refresh this, I'll see that I have one submission. And I can see like what she got wrong, what she got right, and here is my rubric. So I read this and I can determine what I want to answer or what I want to rate her answer. And notice once I clicked that, it did populate a score here because that was the only feedback required item we had on this assessment. So I've got all that there. I went with the constructed response using the rubric tool. Now we're going to provide written feedback. So we want to say, great job. I love your response about being a teacher. So whenever this is returned to her, she will be able to see the feedback from the rubric, and also if you have her answers, if you have it set to where they can see their answers, she'll see their answers, but they'll also see the great job comment that we left. I'm going to exit out of there. And let's say I wanted to go ahead and link this to my gradebook. All I do is open it, and I link to the gradebook from here. And it's now linked to the gradebook. Now, this has not been returned to her, so she cannot actually see her grade yet. To return something from a student to a student, you checkbox and click Return Assignments to Selected Students. You can check this checkbox if all of your students have completed the assignment, but if you press this checkbox and students have not completed the assignment, they will not be able to access it. So we always recommend only returning to the students who have first completed it, and then once everyone completes it, you can press the return button, or you can return it as kind of needed. That's just our recommendation. If you wanted to edit an assignment that has already been pushed out, you do have to edit each individual assignment because these are all copies of the assignment. So like if you had an error on the answer key or something like that, you would have to go in, change the answer key, click allow item editing, which you cannot edit something while a student is taking it. You do have to wait. And let's say I wanted this to actually be partial match per response. So it's rescoring items, and sometimes it does take a while. I only had one student, so that's why it only took a couple seconds. Save, and you can actually see her score changed. If I wanted to let her retake this for whatever reason, I can go to assessment. I can reopen it, which doesn't change her answer. She still can see all the answers that she had before, or I can delete the results and restart, which would be like a completely clean slate on the test. And that is the basics on the actual assessment portion. There are other reasons, other types of assignments that you would want to give in OnCourse Classroom. And they're pretty easy to create, especially if it's an assignment that you would have been giving in Google Classroom. I'm going to call this DBQ outline. And my instructions will say use the template I provide to complete your DBQ. And I actually think this is a rough draft. So I'm going to link it to my drive. There we go. And the assignment is called DBQ Rough Draft. It's going to ask you how you want to share it. Most people are going to be using the template mode. So it's here, save assignment. And then from here, I can copy it to my classes. Again, you can either add it to Gradebook or you can wait. Copy to classes and publish. So now I've got 2 assignments. So you can see here, DBQ outline. This is a fake student, so it's not really going to probably let me really do anything with it. It's just going to open it up and yeah, it just tried to open it up, but this is a fake student, so it doesn't work like that. But your students would just open it and they would complete it, and it would now be in their Google Drive. And something that I really like is that if you don't have this icon, you might have to add the actions column to add the drive, but they're grayed out. Once the student clicks on it and clicks on the assignment, it would actually turn the color of the Google Drive icon. And if you click on that, it opens up the assignment that the student is working on in real time. And you can edit it. So you can kind of point them in the right direction, like highlight some things they don't forget to do this question, stuff like that. And just to kind of bounce back, that column is also available here. And if you click on it, it will actually give you a list of any Drive assignment that has been linked to their OnCourse Classroom. So again, great feature. Love that feature. It's really helpful for teachers. So that's how to create a Google assignment, like a Google linked assignment. Let's say you have something that's a PDF. So I'm going to call this Telling Time. You upload it from your computer. And it's going to upload with this Cami icon. If you did not want it to be a Cami icon, you can make it the resource only. So that would not be an interactive PDF. That would just be like a, use this sentence stem chart for your assignment or something like that. But with the Cami workflow, it will click a pencil, save, copy to classes. And then again, whenever your students would open it, they would click here. Yes. So they can interact with this however you would want them to. So 12, 25. And then your students would hit save and close and then turn in. Okay, so let's say you really liked an assignment that you created. You wanted to share that with a partner teacher. You can either share just a single assignment, or you can share an entire folder. You can share everything you got, whatever you wanted to do. The first step is to always share your parent folder, which is the folder with your name on it. So if I wanted to share this, I would type in the teacher's name and I would press that button. If I wanted to share everything with them, I would click Apply Settings and I would checkbox these two boxes. If you don't want to share everything, you would not do that yet. You would want to get to the lowest level of what you wanted to share. So either a subfolder, a folder, or just one assignment, and then you would press that. You also want to make sure you just give them read access. Giving them full access can be kind of tricky. They can still assign things straight from your bank if you just give them read access. So like, let's say I just wanted to share my math folder with somebody. I'm going to share my parent folder. So I already did that. And then I'm just going to share the math folder. And I want everything in there as well. So if I wanted everything that's in the math folder and then any future thing that goes in the math folder, I would apply settings, apply to child folders and files. And now that teacher would see that. Share an assignment with a teacher and it has a rubric on it. You do also need to share the rubric as well. So we recommend just sharing your whole rubric bank with any partner teachers that you're working with. And it's that same process. Again, same process. And thank you so much for watching. We hope this training gives you the confidence to jump right into OnCourse Classroom. Remember, we're here to support you every step of the way, so please don't hesitate as you begin to explore. Thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.